Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Kyle Taylor, who is the founder and CEO of the Penny Hoarder. Kyle, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, so the reason I wanted to bring you on is that you made this past year in 2016 the Inc. 500 list, and I wanted to clarify that because so many people are familiar with the Inc. 5000, which is one digit off, but the Inc. 500 is an even more elevated status, and you were ranked as number 32 fastest growing private company and number 1 fastest growing private media company. So congratulations for that, and I just wanted to kind of brainstorm, pick your brain on some of the things you've achieved, what some of the learning lessons are for other people that are aspiring to those types of levels, and maybe even from your story of where you started from solopreneur to, your growth. So give us a little bit of background that way.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you for the congratulations. It was, I'm very proud of it, and it's, to my surprise, it's made a huge impact on our business. We started getting all kinds of calls and from people who were interested in working with us just because we were on that list. So it's been an incredible 6 months. But I started on my own a little over 6 years ago, and I always say I'm a kind of an accidental CEO or accidental entrepreneur because I started the blog, the pennyhoarder.blogspot.com at the time, as a hobby. I was in between going to college and I was working on political campaigns. And the thing about both of those experiences is they both leave you pretty broke. So I started to write about some of the things I was doing to save and make extra money. And I thought a blog would be a good way of holding myself accountable and helping myself pay off the $50,000 in student loan and credit card debt I had accumulated. And I was on my own for the first 5 years, and for the first 2, I would say, were hobby, and then 2 years in, I realized I started to get a little bit of traction, and I might have something, and started working on it full time. And then it wasn't until year 5 that I began to work with freelancers and start to build out an actual business.
And did you, at that point, what was the decision process of bringing people on, employees, or going with outsourced freelance type support?
Well, I started with freelancers, and the Penny Hoarder is completely bootstrapped even to this day. So, every dollar I spent hiring or bringing on a freelancer was a big deal for me, and it was a scary thing to do. So I started with freelancers because I felt like I had a little bit less risk there, and I wasn't making such a large commitment. And the business had grown so much and I couldn't both run the blog and run the business side of it.
Sure.
And I really started to enjoy the sales side and the marketing side. So I chose to do that full time and started working with freelancers who could write for the site and promote the content.
And that's just a pause there real quick because You yourself said the word bootstrap, and then you also mentioned that you bring in other people. Well, a very common temptation is for a CEO of a bootstrap company to feel like I can do that. I can write my own blogs, and I can research, and I can do this, and here's 19 hats I've got on, and now all of a sudden, what are you doing? You're running around putting out fires, and you're not really doing everything very, very, very well. So bringing on those people that are experts in that area, like here's a blogger who can write X, and that keeps that content and that focus for them really, really focused, and then for you as well. Is that what you had found in making that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing more humbling when you're building a company of 50 plus people and realizing that how little you actually know. You're absolutely right. I was always, while I enjoyed writing, I was a slow writer. It would take me 10 to 12 hours to get a single blog post out the door. Wow. And I wasn't using my time effectively writing. Now, it was difficult to find freelancers because I was moving from a blog that had a very personal voice, that with readers who had gotten to know my story, and all of a sudden I was adding a bunch of new faces to that mix. So that was a difficult process at first, and I went through several freelancers before finding a good mix that could drive the blog forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But these days, there are so many good writers, bloggers that are so well qualified that you can say, look at my last 10, 20, 30 blog posts and replicate my tone, my voice. And I think that these days is a whole lot easier than just, even a few years ago when you would have to worry like, ooh, people are going to tell I'm not writing it, someone else is.
No, you're absolutely right. And what ended up happening with me is after working with some freelancers individually, I found a blog management company called Social Access that recruited and managed the freelancers for me. And that was our setup for more than a year before last June I acquired Social Access and rolled their operations into the Penny Hoarder.
Nice. That's excellent. Well, let's talk about what is the Penny Hoarder. You mentioned about Bootstrap and saving money, paying off student loans. So that's kind of the genesis. But today, what does it look like, and what does it offer to people?
Thank you. Yeah. So I say we started off as a blog, but we now consider ourselves a distributed distributed model of content. And so we write about ways that people can save and make extra money, and we share some of that content directly on our website, The Penny Hoarder, but we also have really unique content that we post on every channel from Snapchat to Facebook to YouTube, where people can get inspired and excited about saving money.
So the Huffington Post for saving money and home-based and things like that. How many times do you guys blog in a day or a week?
So we are posting between 6 to 8 articles a day on our main website, and then our social media platforms also see anywhere from 1 to 10 posts, depending on which network it is.
Yeah, and here's the deal. You tell some people, business owners, entrepreneurs, you need to blog, and they're like, yeah, I do. Once a quarter. Oh, that's not enough. Okay, once a month. That's all I can get. Boy, that's kind of getting there. Once a week. Maybe that's even better. That's good because Google loves fresh content, and you're going 5+ per day. And I'm sure you didn't jump into that. What was your progression of frequency?
Yeah, so when it was just mine, I was writing usually about 2 times a week, and it was a hobby, so I might take a couple of weeks off and then come back to it. But what I found, like you're saying, is that consistency was really important. You needed to give readers some heads up that they could plan on a new post at a certain day and a certain time every week. So we've scaled slowly. We started last year doing 2 to 3 posts a day. Now we're doing 6 to 8. And next year, we're hoping to triple that by the end of the year and get somewhere close to 25 posts a day.
So I'm on your site now, and it's very, very clean and fresh looking, and I just love the layout. But here's a question that I know you either must get a lot or are prepared to answer. When you see work from home, and you click on the link and you see, hey, this company is looking for, and you can make and you can do. Isn't there the history in that industry, the chance for just a lot of scam options? So what kind of vetting do you guys do to make sure that these are good opportunities?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that because there is a connotation with personal finance and the internet. And I think it's one of the reasons that most personal finance sites like CNBC or Yahoo Finance tend to cater towards people who already have money. It's considered a little bit safer realm of content. So when you start writing about ways to make an extra $100 or ways to work at home, there is that connotation that we've had to work to overcome. And one of the ways that we've done that is by not just employing writers, but employing sort of test dummies. So we write in a very fun tone, but our articles go through the same fact checking that a newspaper would go through. That means calling sources, talking to people who have actually done the job, and oftentimes even doing the jobs ourselves. So we often ask our writers before they write about something to go download that app or go to that restaurant and try whatever it is that they're about to write about so that they can write about it in their first-person experience.
Well, and the upside to that is, number one, it's fresh, validated research, but number two, if and when it actually is a valid opportunity, maybe they made $1 or $2, and that's always fun and interesting for them as well.
Yes, that happens quite frequently. We just call that a perk of the job.
Yeah, right. But I think more importantly is the trust you build with your readers and blog visitors and, your tribe or, your hoarders or whatever name you're calling your, your tribe from, a la Seth Godin of Tribes, which is a wonderful book. You should read that. But yeah, I think that if you start throwing out just things and people come back and put in, wow, this was a bust. Well, now all of a sudden, chink in the armor, and that little link in the chain is broken. So you are taking that fiduciary responsibility that you're putting on yourself as an onus to make sure that everything you put out is vetted and solid so that the next thing you put out is, the same and the next thing. And it becomes a nice pattern of, authenticity.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. The first time we write about something that doesn't go well for a reader, we've lost that reader and probably all of their friends and families forever. So the quality of content is extremely important.
So what would you recommend to someone kind of in your position where, wow, you started off with an idea and you started with a Blogspot blog. Not even a full-on website these days. Like, it's so easy. Blogspot is old school. So, and then you moved it onto your own platforms for all the, the benefits of SEO and all that. But here's someone with an idea of something, and you can get rich in the niche and you can, do underwater basket weaving lessons and, get training courses for that and coaching and anything you want. But what are some pitfalls you fell into and then learn how to overcome so that other people might be able to, do the same when they're starting out? Because I just love the society we're in where it's like, wow, it's no longer work 30 years, get the gold watch and retire and play golf. These days it's, even moonlighting on the side is not frowned upon like it used to be because it's so easy to start something and to kind of, build off your passion. So what are some thoughts that way?
No, you're so absolutely right. And when I first started at the Blogspot, I didn't own the domain for two reasons. One, I didn't know what a domain was, and two, I couldn't have afforded the $8 at the time to buy it. So those first few years for me were all about the hustle. I was writing and selling ads for 40 to 50 hours a week, and then also working 40 to 50 hours a week to support myself. And so I think that's really important. But the biggest thing that I've realized as an accidental entrepreneur is that every day the biggest challenge I have is facing my own fears. I think every entrepreneur has these limitations that you put on yourself. Oh, I can't be the CEO of a huge company, or oh, I can't hire somebody, or oh, I'll never have the money to do that. And I think it's actively combating those thoughts in your mind and pushing yourself to do something that's maybe a little bit uncomfortable or a little outside your natural abilities every day. That's really been the thing that I've found that's helped me push to this level.
Yeah, that's it sounds easy to say, so easy just to go, hey, believe in yourself and, move forward. But it's so hard to actually do. I think that's, I don't know. I think that's, there's a big gap. And it reminds me of a quote from Dale Carnegie that says the person who gets the farthest is generally the one willing to do and dare. The sure thing boat never gets far from shore. And there's so many people that got their boat anchored close to the shore, and they feel like, hey, if your ship's not coming in, swim out to get it. And I think you just have to have that daily mindset of just making 1 degree progress forward, not 100%. So next year's goals don't need to be, 300% more than this year because you frankly might not believe it could happen. So what if you could make incremental, weekly, monthly changes, but then cumulatively, all of a sudden you look back and it's like, hey, I made some good progress this year. So what do you find is good for your mindset to keep you fresh and focused? And then also, setting and achieving those achievable goals?
Yeah, the first thing I do is to make challenges with myself. So, for example, one of the things that I struggle with is networking. I am a somewhat of a shy introvert, and going to these networking events around town is not necessarily my favorite thing to do. But I know how important it is. So I made a deal with myself at the beginning of the year that I would once a week, go to some sort of networking event or agree to coffee with somebody on LinkedIn, and that I would spend at least an hour there. And it's never easy, but what I'm finding is, one, it's getting easier, and now I'm up to doing 2 or 3 a week, but it also is making me some really valuable connections. I met somebody at an event a couple of months ago that introduced me to somebody else who introduced me to an advertiser that's now spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the site. So those sort of little incremental pushes really help me. And then the second is getting rid of the limitations I put on myself. So I remember very clearly the first month that I made $5,000 on the site. I could not have been more excited. Yeah. It was more money than I've ever made in a month. And I remember telling myself, gosh, if I could just do this one more time, if I could just do this another month in a row. And then I started to step back and realize, why do I want to just do 5,000 next month? I should push myself and try to do 10,000. I was setting a limitation on myself that's all I could do. That's all I was worth. And I think recognizing those in yourself and telling yourself, no, I can do better, is so important. At least for me, it is.
You know, you mentioned setting those kind of milestones and goals. I love. I find myself doing this, which probably many people do as well. You add a to do on your to do list just so that you can check it off, and it's like, yeah. And I think studies have shown that when you check something off or scratch something off your list, there's that endorphin type of rush where you're like, I achieved something. And so could we pick some of these things that are like milestone events that definitely lead toward, like maybe you could say, I need X number of sales this month. Well, if you set the goal of X number of sales, well, what if you didn't get it? But what if you more accurately set the focus on these activities that lead to a sale? So like in your example, these networking events. Well, if you had set, 2 or 3 a week, that might have just frightened you to death the first week. But if you set one and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad, then you found yourself going, I could do more. And then maybe you set these little rewards like, when I go to one networking event this week, I'm going to buy myself a Starbucks, just something nominal, but something where it's kind of like Pavlov's dog. You go, I'm going to make myself salivate. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, hey, I can do 2 or 3. Now at some point, it's like, okay, I need to be focused on, and I'm going to limit myself because you could just be doing all that stuff and you need to be focused. But have you found yourself setting kind of gamification things that would draw you to those metrics?
Oh, yes, I am. I gamify everything. It is nice. A joke in the office, and I completely agree with you, though, about...
It's almost like you fed me that question, but you didn't.
Everyone knows in the office how competitive I am.
That's funny. I mean, for real, if your people listen back to this interview, it's going to be like, you told I had zero clue. It's just I picked up on something. But I think it's super important. And however we like to achieve things ourselves, I've got a client that has this little sticky note next to their desk, and I see all these little tick marks. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Well, if it's tick marks on a sticky, or if it's a little thing on your Evernote that you are, check, or something. Maybe you got a buddy that codes some apps, and code up a easy little app that you can use for yourself only, but it keeps you drawn because one of my books is on personal development. It's called Believing Your Why, and we all know that you need to have a why behind your goals, but I took it to the point of you have to believe it, because I could say, I want to make $10 million next year, and that's a goal. That's my why, and my why is because I want to X, Y, Z. But if you don't believe it, now all of a sudden there's another gap. So if you made $9,500,000 last year, maybe the $10 million goal is achievable and believable. So I think we need to be setting those goals, but sometimes there again is that kind of a disconnect. So when you can have some of those little gamification things, even fun, crazy little things, it kind of keeps it. And then especially if you're in a group like coworkers, or even if you're a solopreneur and you have a mastermind group, have something, remote and where people check in with you every couple days. How'd you do? And we won this, call it fantasy, I don't know, fantasy goal setting. And I don't know, I'm not into fantasy football, but I hear people talking about it. And I think that's a fun way to connect with people and, to make some of those metrics achievable. So I love that aspect. So here's a kind of a final question to wrap up. for people that are interested in the Penny Hoarder, from your money hacks to your work from home to coupons and freebies? What is the best way that they can come and interact and engage with your brand and learn more?
Well, we'd love for you to subscribe to our newsletter. There's a subscribe box right on thepennyhoarder.com. And liking us on Facebook or my own personal page, Kyle Taylor. I'm happy to keep you updated.
That's awesome. Well, Kyle, thank you so much. And again, congratulations for a wonderful designation with the Inc. 500, and much success to you in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.